So this one is important. This is quite difficult to get your head round, but it's very important. And I tell you why it's important. I've made notes, and please excuse me looking at the notes. This is important because we've been told that coming down the line are 15-minute cities in which we're going to have all our movements restricted. We can only go so many times into different zones as part of our travelling. We've been told that we're heading towards net zero in 2030 and again then in 2050, in which everything that we have known, the way we do things, is going to be drastically changed over a huge amount of time. Infrastructure clearly has to be changed in order to switch from old style fossil fuels that have been here for some time now and have given us an amazing opportunity in life, but we're going over to this new type of green energy, and solely on that, the wind power and the solar panels, and hopefully some nuclear. But the transition period is incredibly short. We've been told this is all because of climate change, that the science is fixed, in which of course no science is fixed, but this is how everything is being directed. We saw how that went in the pandemic when they said we're following the science, and it turns out that lockdowns was not the way forward, and it turns out that the vaccine that was rushed through, which is still an experimental medical procedure, has had lots of issues, and the problems that are associated with that, such as the various contracts for PPE in which certain government ministers have, through the backhand, favoured certain people, and that's all coming out now. It's following the science has never been a particularly ideal situation, especially when there are other scientists who are arguing vehemently for the other side of the coin. And in climate change, that is still the case. It's not a fixed science, as people would like you to believe. We're being told that we're going to have to change our insulation in our houses and homes over the next few years because houses leak, and they want us to change up, which is going to be extremely expensive. It's going to put a lot of people into poverty. We know that people are going to change the way they heat their houses with these ridiculous heat pumps, which in certain parts of the country at certain seasons of the year will not actually even work effectively. But this is what's coming down the line. We're being told that our diesel vans and our petrol cars are going to be obsolete. We won't be able to use them, that we've got to buy into electric cars, and yet electric power points are not even there in the roads, and that they are extremely costly to install. Yet this is another thing that we're being told we've got to have. We're being forced by the back door to eat insects, bugs, crickets, mealworms, are all going. In Wales, they're looking at potentially putting these things into children's school dinners. They'll be fed into the food chain as a white powder, not labelled as bugs or insects. We won't even know we're eating them. They'll be bunged into many of the processed foods that are on the shelves of the supermarkets. We're being told that we're having digital IDs, and this is going to be beneficial for us because it'll be very convenient. Every bit of our data and information will be available to any person in the government or their third-party contractors. If they need to contact us, they'll have everything that we've ever done digitally at their fingertips, or all the information, which is rather scary. We're also told that we're having a central bank and digital currency, so that now there will be a third party in any private transactions that are going to happen. When you buy things online, you may end up with the approval of this digital bank with its carbon taxes and its carbon social credit scores and things like that. All of this, we're told, is coming down to us. You and I have never voted for it. We've never asked for it, and yet it's coming down at an enormously fast rate. But that surely, if we've not asked for it, cannot happen. And yet it is. We're told this is what you're going to have. The reason that I say this is important, that we know this, is because we the people should and have every right to stop what we don't want. We live in a land in the UK in which we have a government, we have Parliament. Now, is it a fact that the Parliament, this government, can make statutes and rules which are there for the entire rest of our lives or for the rest of time? Well, no, because we know that a new government can come in and adjust and change and alter some of the rules. We've seen that when we abolished slavery, for example. We thought, hang on a minute, actually this isn't a good idea, we will abolish it. We have acts being changed all the time. So we can't have a situation in which a government can be a dictatorship. We're in a democratic society. This is how we've grown up. This is our rights. A government cannot be tyrants. So therefore, there has to be change. Now, we are protected from that by the UK Constitution. The UK Constitution is there to protect its people's liberties. It has to be. Now, unlike other countries who have their Bill of Rights, for example, written out on a sheet of paper that you can hold up and frame in your house, our constitution isn't on a single piece of paper. It's in lots of different acts of human rights and certain bills of rights and various things like that. It's all over the place. But essentially it is there to protect our liberties. It means that a government cannot and should not and must not be a dictatorship. But what if the government is in a position in which it's being influenced by outside forces? Say, for example, unelected people meet regularly once a year in, I don't know, a Swiss town somewhere in which they're heavily protected, and they decide what's going to happen across the world to various governments. And what if those governments' representatives go there and are influenced by them? Influenced in a bad way, saying that digital IDs is a good thing or that we should head towards net zero without consulting the people and asking them if that's what they actually want and proving that the science is more plausible than possibly not. We can't have a government in which they are being potentially blackmailed or bribed or influenced in a way that they think is right. That can't be how the UK Constitution works if it's protecting our liberties, if it's protecting the people who put the Parliament there. That cannot be how it works. And yet it seems as if the government have this carte blanche, we're doing it, you're suffering it. That can't be right, and we know that's not right. We have in the King a person who sits separate to Parliament and to government. So Parliament creates its rules and statutes and says, right, this is what we think we should do. And it has to go to the King, who is the head of the state, to give the royal assent. Now, people say that this is just a formality. He signs a bit of paper and then it becomes law. But it isn't just a formality. He has to look at that law, that statute, and say, is this for the benefit of the people, my people, the people he is in charge of? Now, very soon, this new king, King Charles, who will be the third King Charles, will be taking an oath at his coronation. This is why this is important, because when he takes that oath, this aligns him with the people, not with government, but with the people. He will be swearing that he will be, as head of state, looking after what is beneficial for the people of this land. This is very, very important. It may sound like it's just a bit of old world nonsense, but it isn't. He will have to reject things that have happened in the past when he was a prince, some of his other ideas, some of his other connections. He will have to reject perhaps his work, well, definitely his work with people like the WEF, the Great Reset. He will have to reject all of that, retract it even, and say, no, I am not in favour of that. I am here. My sole job as king is to look after the needs and the benefits of the people of the UK, so that as the Parliament makes its rules and puts them before him for the royal assent, he will be able to, on his oath, be looking out, is this for the benefit of the people? And this is why it's very important that he does make a retraction, a great retraction, to those things that in the past have not necessarily been of the interest of the people. I'm going to be talking to a chap called Will later on in the week and doing an interview and talking about the UK Constitution and its importance and how it is relevant today, even though it all sounds as if it's from the mists of time and is not really a thing. Because we forget who put the government where they are. We forget these very ancient and important roles, because that is how our democratic society works. And as we haven't had a king, a new king or a new royal who's looking after us for such a long time, it's extremely important that we look at these roles and we get everybody in line in the roles that they should play. So I hope that you'll look forward to that, and I'll tell you more about that when it happens, and we'll explore that. But it's absolutely important. We are at a critical moment because we have all these things that we are told that are coming, but none of us have asked for them. None of us want 15-minute cities, digital IDs and digital bank currency and insulation in our houses and all these restrictions to our liberties. So this is a very important time. Thank you for listening.